Hello and welcome to a new video for my Indev survival island. I'm making this one because I've decided that it's been long enough since I made the last one, so it has time to show off the progress that I've made. I've mainly been doing some gardening since the last video, kind of building some custom trees, building paths, planting flowers, and some other miscellaneous things like adding some rocks to the shoreline. And I shouldn't also forget about the warehouse which I had built in the last stream, but more on that later. And here's a quick comparison showing how the island used to look like not long after I've released the last video. As you can see, it is a lot less barren and a lot less interesting due to the lack of trees, paths, and the warehouse. So overall, I'd say the island looks a lot better with all these custom trees, these flowers, and these paths. I must say I quite like walking on these paths as I'd say the environment is kind of charming with the limited selection of flowers, these simple custom trees, and the neon green foliage. I think it looks quite nice. There's something nice about it that I guess you can't really have it more in Minecraft unless you get like a resource pack or something. And for this place over here, I decided to plant only flowers and to not build any custom trees. That's to make it kind of unique compared to the other places, since those have both flowers and custom trees. So I thought it would be more unique if I only planted flowers. And another reason why I decided to do this is because I couldn't really think of any other use for this place. Oh, you can only call it a use since it's just decorative. And here's another quick comparison showing that this place used to be a lot less interesting without all of the paths and the plants added. I almost forgot to show the warehouse which I had built in the last stream. Now, there are three reasons why I decided to build this warehouse. The first reason being sort of a visual, to kind of make it so the lighthouse isn't on its own here, and it's kind of a visual balance. I think that's what you call it. Where the second reason is kind of practical, because I can use it to store stuff, bulk storage for things like cobblestone, dirt, and stone. And the last reason is kind of a lore reason. I like to imagine that people could use it to store the things that are brought by the ships, or at least like the excess stuff, since I don't think there's enough space to store everything. As you can see, currently I'm storing like 3 crates and it's kind of full, although I could probably space them out more efficiently. Which is the reason why I've built these large warehouse doors, because you need the doors to be big so you can bring in the big crate. As you can see, these ones are partially opened while these ones are closed. And I also have like a set of smaller doors in the middle. That way you don't need to open the warehouse doors for people to go inside. And as you can see, compared to the last stream, already the stream in which I built this, I've also added some decorations around with the custom trees, these flowers, and I've also built like a this thing where you can like store stuff on the outside, and currently I've got some blocks stored here. Seems like I forgot to bring the building materials home after I finished working on the warehouse, so let me just quickly grab them. Another thing that I've changed is the number of windows. When I built it on stream, I only had 4 windows on the roof, but I decided to kind of move them and have 5 windows instead. Anyway, I think the warehouse looks quite nice despite its simplicity. And I've also been doing various miscellaneous things, like for example I've mentioned that I've built some custom trees, but I've also improved some existing ones. I did some landscaping. I replaced the stones in the baths with lit furnaces so that the baths would be properly lit. I've been gathering materials. I've also built this nether portal frame so that I can use it in the future. And overall, I've just been trying to make this world more complete so that I would be able to finish it soon. Well, relatively soon. I'm not sure when it will be yet, but I suspect I should be able to finish this world in July. And by finishing this world, I of course mean to finish the things that I got written on my checklist. Of course, there are more things that I could do. There always are, but things that's necessary. Of course, this won't be the last of this world that you will see, since I'll be importing this into Infdev. I also plan to do some special streams where I play on this world in Indev Plus, a mod that you might have heard of. And with that, I've shown all of the progress that I've made since the last video, which means that now it is time to do some building. And the first thing that I like to work on is this, which will be a future cactus farm. So let me just clear up these trees and then get to work. But I currently don't have a design in mind, which is why I decided to load up this world in Indev Plus, which is a mod for Indev. The reason why I did it is because it gives me access to creative mode and all of the blocks that I might need. Of course, loading up this world didn't go quite as well as I hoped, as you can see over here, but that's fine, as I only need to be worried about this area. Anyway, the first thing that I want to do is to pick a block palette that I will use to build this, and I need to be careful not to choose any blocks that aren't in vanilla. And this is the block palette that I decided to go for. I think it should be nice. And as you can see, I've also cleared out this hole. This is where the collection area for the cacti will be. Anyway, it is time to start building, and I think I will start with some stone at the ground floor, or ground level. And then I will add some slabs for the floor. I'm kind of thinking of making the room smaller and making the building tiered. I think it will be nice. And here's the design that I had in mind. I think it will look quite nice. The reason why I decided to go for 2 floors is because I want to use the second floor for storage, to store the cactus. I think that will be nice. Anyway, time to continue building. Now then, as you can see, I decided to use stone slabs for the walls. I'm using the full blocks for the collection area and the slabs for the walls, because I kind of like the open feeling of it. Although I think that for this part I will use full blocks. Anyway, I've also worked on the upper floor, where I've decided to go for the same design, same open feeling, I think it looks kind of neat. And I've also decided to start working on the roof, or I decided to place some grass. This is the reason why I decided to do this is because I don't want the building to be quite so grey. I think adding some greenery to this will be quite nice and make it look better. And now it is time to start working on the collection area, for which I decided to go for a simple design, kind of using stone for the corners, and for the walls I decided to go with a indented design where I place the cloth on the inside. Although I want to use this design for the collection area because of the props might get caught on the walls. Although I might still need to think about it to decide what I want to do. And here's a sort of design that I came up with. As you can see, I'm using quite a lot of glass. Like, we got these glass walls over here, which have got cloth behind them with 2 different shades of green, which I think looks quite cool. And you've got this wall over here, which separates the collection area from this room over here. There's also this sort of hole here where the drops should fall. At least I believe it should work, since we got this section which is 8 blocks long, which should mean that the water should flow all the way to the edge, and then I will have some water over here which will bring the drops to the center. At least I hope it will. And also, as you can see, I'm using some lit furnaces for light. Yeah, I think this area looks quite nice. Anyway, I think the building should be good like this. The design is somewhat simple, but I think it's kind of nice. So now I'm just going to rebuild it in vanilla Indev. And with that, this thing is built. Now, to do the timelapse that you just saw, I've used the Indev multiplayer mod by Mr. Artsif. So if you are interested in that, I'm gonna put a link to his website so you can find it yourself and use it if you want to. But anyway, I think this place looks quite nice. Anyway, now that this is finished, I'm going to take my things back home and then move on to something else. Also, I forgot to say this, but to record the time-lapse I decided to cheat a bit, because while building it I decided to disable the day-night cycle on the server. That way it would be easier for me to build, and it would also be easier for you to see. And here's how it looks when viewed from the tower. I think it fits in quite nicely because you can't really see it since it's mostly hidden by the trees. And now that the cactus farm is done, I would like to work on the wheat farm bit. And by working on it, I mean that I would like to come up with a design for the walls, because the wheat farm is kind of mostly complete. I just need to kind of decorate it. And no, this isn't the wheat farm that I plan to work on. This is just a temporary wheat farm that I used to gather a lot of seeds so that I could plant them in the main farm. And here's the wheat farm that I was talking about. It is quite large, perhaps too large for my purposes, but it's fine. Anyway, unlike the previous video, it now has access to water, which I had brought from the ocean, which I feel like is better than using water source blocks. By the way, now I would like to try to come up with a design for this build, although I'm not going to build it in this episode as I plan to work on it in the next stream, which will be on the 27th, I think. Alright, let me just grab some building materials. Now, I already have a rough design in mind, which is to have some log pillars with like cloth walls between them. However, I haven't yet decided how I want to space those pillars out, or what sort of colors do I want to use, or how I want to use them. So I'm gonna try to kind of think about it. and decide on that in this episode. And then I'm gonna place in all of the blocks in these streams, since there are kind of a lot of them that I need to place. I think something like this might be good. Maybe. Although the one in the middle might be too big, too wide. Yeah, I think this could work. And there we go. I've placed in all the pillars. So next up I'm gonna try working on the walls to decide what I want to do with them. And then I need to decide what to do with the ceiling, because I don't have like a proper idea for a design. Some time has passed since the last clip, and during that I've done some thinking as to how I want to handle things, and I believe I finally know. So firstly, the walls. I've decided to kind of change the number of pillars, change the number of cells that there will be on each side. Now there are 27 on each side, not counting like the middle ones. This is so that I can kind of do a rainbow. My plan is to kind of have like these next to the middle as gray, white and gray. That way I've got 25 cells remaining on each side. That way I can kind of do a rainbow, because these are certain colors, so I can go like from red all the way to purple, which will be 13. The middle one will be purple, and then I will go from purple back to red, which will be 25 cells in total. So you'll go gray, red, yellow, red, orange, yellow, all the way to purple. This will be all purple, and then back to red, which works when it comes to math. Secondly, I decided that for the ceiling I would like to do some pixel art, which will be a bit difficult, but I think it will be worth it. I just need to figure out what I want to do first, and also close up these holes that are in the ceiling, because those are kind of in the way. And lastly, I've decided that instead of doing this on a stream, I'm going to do some time lapses. So there will be time lapses of me placing these walls and just taking care of them, and then doing the pixel art. I think that will be good. And now it is time to work on the ceiling, for which I've already chosen the pixel art that I want to use. So hopefully it will turn out well with the color palette that I have and the darkness that I have here. The pixel art it's a bit silly, but I think it will be nice to have. And with that, the pixel art is finished. I feel like it kind of turned out well, although not as well as I hoped, as you can't really see that well. I think it's fine if you can't really see that well. I think it's enough if you simply know that it's, there's a pixel art up there. Now, originally I was planning to have you guess what sort of pixel art this is. However, I don't think this will be possible due to the different colors, the sort of angle with which you look at it, and just I don't think it will look all that good on a YouTube video. So I'm just gonna say that this pixel art is based on the 4-byte burger pixel art by Jake Hager, which was later recreated by Stuart Brown, also known as Xbox Ahoy or simply Ahoy on YouTube. He even made a YouTube video where he showed the whole process of recreating it, and I highly recommend watching it. Anyway, now that this pixel art is done, I'm going to work on some other stuff. And the first thing that I want to do is to build a storage system where I will store the wheat and the seeds from this farm. Also, one more thing that you might be asking yourself is why was there a need to recreate this pixel art? And the answer is that when it was originally created, it was made on a Commodore Amiga using a prototype paint program, which was so early in development that it didn't have a save feature. So the only way to preserve it and show it was to literally photograph the display that it was on. You can really save it as a file. And here's the design that I decided to go for. It's very simple, but I think it's nice. As you can see, I decided to use the colors which were already used in the pixel art. Anyways, for the other side, I decided to close it up. I'm going to open it up probably once I get to Infdev and maybe later. Anyway, with that done, the last thing that I'd like to do is to kind of work on the staircase a bit, kind of remove the wall and replace it with something better looking. And so I went ahead and decorated the staircase. As you can see, I've only used a simple design, nothing particularly interesting. And aside from that, I've also taken care of the chests that were here. And I've also stored all of the wheat that I had in my storage system here. That's because I feel like this is a better place to store it, along with my seeds, which means that this farm is now ready to be used. However, I won't be using it in Indev or early Infdev. That's because of the animals that spawn here, which would trample my crops. And with that, I have finished everything that I wanted to do in this episode. In fact, I even did more than I expected. Now, as for the future, there are a few things I got planned. Now, when I started this episode, there were 4 things remaining for me to finish in this world, those being the cactus farm, the wheat farm, and a furnace room and a house. Now, I've completed the 2 first tasks, which means that there are only 2 tasks remaining, those being the furnace room, which I plan to work on in the next stream that will be on the 27th of June. I plan to build the furnace room over here, which means that in July I'll be working on the house, and that house will be built over here. I believe that this should be enough space for it. My main goal for it is to have my bed in there once it gets added in beta 1.3. I believe that the house will probably be mostly decorative. So in conclusion, if my plans go well, then I should be done with this world in July, because the only major remaining thing that I'll have is the house, which shouldn't be too hard to build. So I'll likely just be tying up loose ends in July after I'm done with the house. And with that, I have said everything that I wanted to. So hopefully everything will go well, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.